In this quick video, I'm going to show you what I put in the pockets and why I have those particular things in the pockets, and some of the things I like about the apron and some of the things that I'm not too crazy about, but I'm planning to change. Hi there and welcome to WB Fine Woodworking. As you can see here, I'm wearing my new apron. I'm really enjoying this apron. It's very comfortable. I'll tell you more about it and what I put in the pockets in this video. I've laid the apron out on my outfeed table so we can see what's in the pocket. I know this is going to change over time, but I thought it might be interesting to show you what I put in the pockets for now. One of the things that I noticed right away is that this apron does not come with things like D-rings on the straps. D-rings would be handy for hooking things like the control for the dust collection and possibly safety glasses. One solution for now at least would be to add something like a carabiner to each of the straps. That way I could hang my safety glasses and my dust collection remote on my apron. Now let's see what I put in the pockets of my apron. I'm going to start with this top set of pockets. As you can see here, it has the Jonathan Katz-Moses logo on it. Since I bought it from Jonathan, that's okay to have that. Maybe later on I'll replace that with one of my own. The first item that I had in those pockets is this mechanical pencil. It's actually one that's made for sewing, but the lead in this mechanical pencil is white. And if you saw my video on using a white pencil on dark woods like walnut, that's why I bought it. I haven't really had a chance to use that pencil yet very much, but I have some plans to use walnut coming up, so I'm sure I'm going to be using that soon. The second item I have is one of those pencils made by Pica. The green part is actually a sleeve that goes in the pocket like this, and this is the pencil part. Now, I painted the tip of it white because I have some white lead in this one, and so I'm keeping that next to my other white. I'm planning to use that again on some walnut and some other dark woods. Next to that one, I've left this tip green. This is another Pica, and it has regular black thread in it. One of the things that's really nice about these little Pica pencils is they do have a pencil sharpener that's in the end. Put the lead out a little bit, sharpen your lead, and you can put the pencil back in. So that's going to be handy to have. The next one I have is really almost exactly the same thing as the Pica. This is made by Dixon, and they call it their Reach pencil. It's a little different. In fact, somewhere along the line, I'll do a comparison of this pencil and the Pica. I bought this pencil quite a while back, and I forgot that I had it. And so a special deal came up on the Picas, so I bought those. So this one will most likely go in my turning apron eventually. But for now, I have it in here so that I can compare that with the Pica. And again, that is designed to come out of the sleeve. These are used, I believe, by a lot of carpenters. The last pencil in that pocket is this, just a regular cheap Papermate mechanical pencil, but this is a 0.5 millimeter, very small. I don't use this very often because the lead breaks easily, but some of you know that there's certain templates out there, certain squares and things that require a 0.5 millimeter, and so that's why I have it up here. The next item is my Woodsmith Fine Tools 6-inch steel rule. This is an excellent rule. I really like it. In fact, I did a video on these, and eventually I'll do another video on these because I've added an 18-inch rule to my shop. So this is an excellent rule, and I'm putting it in here. Now, that's the issue that I have with this apron so far, is that this slips out too easily. It's not in there tightly enough. So I could put a rare earth magnet back behind this, sew it into the back of the canvas. The issue that I have is that I have a pacemaker, and having a strong rare earth magnet up close to where my pacemaker is probably not a good idea. So I may have to do something else with that, and I think I'll mention that later on in the video. And the last thing is my go-to mechanical pencil. This is a 0.7 millimeter. This is just a cheap Bic pencil, but I use these around the shop all the time. I have one at every tool. In fact, I did a video on how I have one at each of the tools. So that's something up there. I may eventually put a marker up there. If I take this one out, I'll probably put a marker up there so that I have that available on my apron as well. Now we come down to the middle section of the apron. This is where Jonathan Katz-Moses made some changes to the original apron that he had. He bought an apron that was just like this, but it did not have these two carriers. And he has a video that shows how he modified his original apron. And it's really kind of cool the way he did that. The company came along and said to him, would you like to sell an apron on your website that has these two on it? We can make that up for you. And so that's how this apron came about. This is a leather pocket for a marking knife that's riveted into the canvas apron and the pocket down below. This is something that Jonathan added to his original apron because when he put his marking knife in the pockets up above, it kept cutting holes in his apron. It was designed for a marking knife made by Matt Esley over in England. Matt recently did a production run of those, but ran out of them before I could get a hold of one. He's planning another production run this year, but he's also going to include with that production run the opportunity to get just the metal parts for his marking knife. I'm thinking I could get those marking knife parts and turn my own handle. But for now, I have this one. It uses the same blade that Matt's marking knife uses. It's really more like a scalpel blade, but it is used for marking knife. This marking knife is a Swan Morton Dovetail marking knife, and I found it on Amazon. So that's something that you could look for. It does fit in here nicely, and it is a very nice marking knife. Over here we have the pocket that Jonathan created on his original apron to hold his combination square, and I thought this was an excellent way to do it. Right now I have a cheap combination square in there. It's a Swanson. It's an accurate combination square, so it works just fine. Eventually I'll probably put a Starrett in there, but somewhere along the line I'll have to figure out a way to afford it. But the combination square fits really nicely in the pocket and snaps shut to secure it. Now we're going to move down to these bottom two rows. We'll take the top row first and then the bottom row. In this first pocket, I have this engraver. It's an interesting tool. This is a metal point here. It's carbon steel, and it's good for engraving on a piece of wood or a piece of metal. And it comes with this little protective sleeve. I'm hoping that that lasts. We'll have to see if that does. It also has a magnet on the end here. So that's handy to have. It came with another tool that I'll mention later. So that's why I have that. We'll see how useful it is. Another thing that goes in this pocket is this extendable magnet. These are great to have when you drop a screw on the floor. I've also used it to get the nut out of the dust chute in the saw stop. So it's a very handy thing to have. This is an Omen. I understand the Omen company has been around since the Depression days. And it's a nice brand. I don't know if that's anything special or not. But that goes right here in this pocket. Over in this pocket, I had this level that I bought came from Woodworker's Journal years ago. It might have been a promotion. I may have gotten that when I subscribed to the magazine at one time. But it's a nice level to have. It's very handy. It is accurate. So I figured it'd be a great thing to put in the apron. So I always have a level with me. Down on the bottom row over in this first pocket, I have this brass caliper. It's pretty handy to have. It's just a nice little tool, but it's something to be useful and helpful to have in the apron. I may eventually get a better one, but that one's okay for now. Over in this pocket, I have this ruler that has a slider on it. And this is great for checking depths of mortises and things like that very quickly. Yes, I have some woodpecker rules that have the sliding piece on them, but this is just handy to have in the pocket of my apron, and it's there at all times. Another tool that I have in this pocket is an old utility knife. This is a Craftsman. I know some people don't like Craftsman tools, but this is a really good one. It's old, it's been around for a long time, and it's very handy to have in the shop. I'm always looking around for a good utility knife to open up packages and things like that. So have that in the apron. For now, in this pocket, I have this center punch. This is the tool that I mentioned that came with this engraver. This is the tool I was after, but it came as a set from Rockler. This is one of those spring-loaded center punches. And let me put a piece of cherry over here. I could sharpen it a little bit to make the holes a little sharper, not quite as wide. And it's also adjustable as far as the depth of the hole. But this is a handy little center punch. I love the handle on it because it's easy to push, much easier than a lot of others I've had. So that goes in there. These are two tools that I bought from Veritas. They're very small but handy. The first one here that I have attached with a keychain is a setup block. And it's a 1 inch here, but it goes from 1 inch to ½ an inch to 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch in increments on the different sides. And it's a very handy little setup block to have. So I have one of these in my apron. And then this is really an interesting Carpenter's triangle. It's very small, as you can see, but it does have all of the same things as a larger triangle. And if I need something to get into a small place, this is a handy triangle to have. So I just keep that in the bottom of this pocket. And the last thing I put over in this pocket is one of those 9-foot DeWalt tape measures. I've mentioned these before. In fact, I did a video on this one. I have some from Craftsman, or they're the same size and almost the same exact tool. I'm going to do a video comparing the two sometime. But this is just a handy rule to have. And I put it over in this pocket. It has a magnetic back, and I have them on all my tools. So I'd like someplace on this apron to eventually put a magnet or a piece of steel so that I can use this and put it like there or someplace with the magnet. But for right now, I'm just throwing it in the pocket. I guess I could use the hook and hook it on. Maybe I can do that. And that's easier to find it. And of course, last but not least are the loops that are on the apron. The first one here, I've just put a rag on it. Now, I'm not going to do what Jonathan Katz-Moses does on his apron. If you've ever watched his program, his original apron that he made himself, this area up here was just covered with dried glue. Whenever he had a piece of wood that he was gluing up and he had extra glue, he just wiped it on his apron. No, I'm not going to do that, so I have a rag attached over here for that. So last and certainly not least is this loop over here contains this hammer. This hammer is probably one of the few tools that I have left over from my dad's tools. It was one of those hammers that he used a lot, as you can see. It has a plastic end on one end and a rubber end on the other. And this actually is a very handy little tool to have, and it sort of reminds me of my dad when I'm working in the shop. So this tool is very important to me, and it's going to reside in this loop over here, at least for now. As I was editing this video, I decided to get another tool to put in the apron, and it came in before I was finished editing, so I decided to go ahead and add it here. And that is one of these Engraver tiny precision T-rules. I've seen a lot of people use these and say how wonderful they are. I've seen them in the stores, and I just didn't get one at the time, but I decided it'd be great to have one in the apron. And they're very lightweight, so that's easy. And that's one reason I had this 5mm pencil in my apron, is I knew that I would probably be getting one of these, and it requires a 0.5mm lead to get into the little tiny holes that are here. I'm really happy to have this, and it'll be something that'll be very handy in the shop. And it goes right in that pocket very well. So overall, I'm very pleased with the arrangement of the apron. I think it's going to be a very handy apron to have, and I'm looking forward to using it in the shop. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there was going to be some changes or things that I'd like to do. I'd like to probably do the same kind of thing that Jonathan did to the original in adding some pieces of leather on here and using some rivets or doing some sewing. I haven't done leather work since high school. So it's a long time ago. I do remember what I used to do and how I used to do it, so I may try that. The first thing that I wanted to do is I mentioned my rule that's up here. I love the 6-inch rule, and I love having it available, and it's very useful, but I'm not sure that's going to be the best place for it because it falls out. What I may do is over here somewhere, make a leather pocket, or maybe here, and put a magnet in it so that the rule doesn't fall out. But I'm not sure. Or I might take one of these pockets and put a leather sleeve in it like this one here. That might work. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my 6-inch rule, but for now it'll still be up here. There might be something else that I want to add to the apron. I haven't used it enough to find out what I like and what I don't like as far as what's in it. I eventually would like to put a small block plane someplace in here. I could put it in one of the pockets for now, and that's possible. Lee Nelson makes a beautiful little bronze block plane that's small, low-angle plane, and Veritas makes one that they call their apron plane. So I may look at those and see if I find them to be handy. I love my little block plane that I have, my Stanley. I'm not sure. I might even put that in the pocket. That might work for now. Just adds a little bit more weight than one of the smaller planes, I think. But for now, like I said, it's very good. I might do a little leather work. We'll see. Oh, and one last thing I forgot to put in is a little flashlight. This is one I got. It's just one AA cell, but it's a great little handy tool to have, especially if you're looking to see if there's a gap anywhere in your work. And so I figured that'll be a good place for that. This new apron replaces one that I bought way back in the 1970s. In fact, really early 1970s, when I started turning. I wanted an apron that would protect my chest from turning in case something flew off the lathe. It's been a nice apron. It's not really all that comfortable. The straps are very thin. And the biggest issue, of course, it's the same issue I'm going to have here, is that sawdust would collect in the pockets. Now for turning, that's a real big problem. As you can see, I still have turning dust in the pockets now. This was a Nicholas brand suede leather, so I still plan to use it for turning. On this old apron, the other thing that I didn't like about it was the straps on the back were sort of this crisscross pattern. They're okay, but they're a little difficult to get into and out of. And this new apron, if you'll excuse my back, has this nice strap that goes across the top, and then the waist strap goes down here, and it's very, very comfortable. And it's easier to put on and take off. As I've already mentioned, this is a very comfortable apron. I love the shoulder straps and the pads that are on here. They really help support the weight of the apron. Well, do I like this apron? Yes, I do. It's made out of a heavier canvas than most aprons are made out of. It's actually an oiled canvas. Would I rather have leather like I had before? Sure. I'd love to have one of those beautiful dragonfly aprons, maybe one a little shorter than the ones they make, but I just can't afford it. It's just not in my budget. So this is a good budget choice for me, and it might be a good budget choice for you as well. If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up down below. Hit that subscribe button. I picked up some new subscribers, and that's wonderful. Thank you all for subscribing. And remember to hit that notification bell so that you know when my videos are coming up. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to put them down below. I love responding to questions and comments. I greatly appreciate those. And thank you all very much for watching. Here are some additional videos that you might want to watch that are on my channel. I greatly appreciate all the help and support from all of you viewers out there. Thank you very much.